is a Variety Sports Network production. Now to your host.
Hello, motherfucker. Welcome to another edition of the 7th Inning.
Stretch!
Every time your camera is always behind on that one. I am your host, Logan Stone, and with me is my co-host, Josh Edwards. How are you doing, Josh?
It's Monday, but we're talking baseball, so I'm good.
Well, that's good. And then we have a special guest, Ryan from BSing Sports. Brian, how are you doing? Or Ryan, I don't know why I said Brian.
It's okay, man. I've been getting it my whole life. My last name's Swift, so you can imagine, what direction that conversation goes off in. But yeah, so I'm doing all right. I'm always down to talk some baseball, so I'm better about that.
Yeah. We have a fun episode today. We're going to discuss all the MVP, Rookie of the Year, and Cy Young candidates. We're going to talk about, obviously the favorites, and then we're going to talk about some ones that we think should be talked about more. It should be fun. Do we want to say anything before we get going? Just out of curiosity, is there anything we saw? Obviously,
we should do it every before we get into this.
Okay.
I mean, I said before we went live, last time I talked to you guys, the Cardinals were in second place. So
yeah,
and now they're the best team in baseball. So what the heck happened there?
At least they play like it. They're winning like it right now. But this episode is going to be brought to you by the Row One brand. Check out Row One brand if you haven't already. We talk about them every week. Lots of cool vintage artwork and apparel. They've sent us out some T-shirts. We just had our big giveaway with it. I didn't even get the winner's name. So congratulations to whoever won the prize from Row One Brand. But when you go to Row One Brand's website and you go to their art gallery and you get anything for like your man cave that's on a canvas or something like that, you put in VSP15 at checkout. They get you 15% off your order. But don't just stop at their art gallery. Go on over and check out their shirts and their mugs and all the other stuff they have too. Great gift ideas for moms, dads, aunts, uncles, anybody who's a vintage sports fan or just loves all kinds of different sports artwork.
Nice. Very interesting. It was funny. I was watching the Cubs and Blue Jays earlier today, and the Blue Jays, they like had a shift on every player, and every player on the Cubs was hitting into the shift, but like just 2 feet over where the Blue Jays were, and they could never, like the Blue Jays were shifted when they shouldn't have been shifted. Like it was exactly where the second baseman would normally be, and it was kind of funny to me. I was like, man, the shift really sucks. Which I think next week we're going to talk about, all the things that they're doing in the minors, because they just implemented new rules in the minors, and which is actually really interesting. So, but anyways, let's go ahead and get into this discussion. Is there any other awards we want to talk about besides the big three that you guys are interested in just talking about or going over?
I mean, I could make the case that NL Manager of the Year belongs to Rob Thompson, but I mean, unless you guys don't want to talk about that.
I want to hear that.
Yeah, let's talk about that because we don't follow the Phillies as much as you do. So,
understandably so. So, when Rob Thompson took over on June 3rd for Joe Girardi, the Phillies were 11 games below 500, I believe, and since then they've only had the 4th best record in baseball. As an interim manager, that you can argue that nobody's done a better job than Rob Thompson. And the way you just make the swap at manager and your team, goes from night to day. To me, that's just the only criteria you really need. I mean, if you're the 4th best team in baseball with one manager and, a bottom 5 team with the other, to me, that's clear cut. You can make the argument that if Thompson had been at the helm all year, the Phillies could be in contention for the East, maybe even in the lead for the East. I don't know. We keep shooting ourselves in the foot against the Mets. So I wouldn't say that we'd be in first place, but we would definitely be a better team record-wise than what we are now.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
Would have
I mean, that's not
definitely
bad
been-
argument.
he's a
his
lot
only
more
knock is
interesting.
his only knock is obviously he took over June 3rd, so he hasn't been manager all year.
Yeah.
Has an interim manager ever won manager of the year before?
I want to say Schilt got nominated in 18 at least, or he was a finalist. I'm not 100%, but I'm sure it's happened. But yeah, I mean, I was just reading an article the other day that Bryce Harper went in on Girardi again, and his problem was basically that Girardi never played Alec Boehm, Bryson Stott, or any of the other rookies, and he valued the veterans more. And the veterans like Didi Gregorius and some of the other guys were just not as good as they used to be.
No.
And that was hurting the team. And you can definitely tell because I mean I was stupid and I was like, you're gonna fire this manager and act like it's the biggest problem. That's the Phillies' biggest problem. And I thought honestly it was going to be I thought their biggest problem was defense and pitching. But ever since they fired him, everything has been working well. I mean, obviously their defense is not the greatest still, but I mean,
I'll go toe to toe with Keith Hernandez because the Phillies have less errors than the Mets do this season.
Oh yeah. That Keith Hernandez comment, that was weird.
Yeah,
I did like the Phillies' retaliation to that though. Every time there was a good play, they put the sticker of Keith Hernandez. Keith Hernandez approved.
Yeah, no, it's been a complete turnaround, and I kind of thought the same thing. When the season started, I was like, man, here goes another year of our bullpen not being able to do anything. Yeah. And all of a sudden, Thompson just completely flips the ideology of how he uses his pitchers coming out of the pen. And they've got like the 5th best ERA as a bullpen in baseball. And that's for a long stretch, I think about a month and a half there, they were doing bullpen games every 5th day because we didn't have a 5th starter. So the bullpen has done a fantastic job, and Rob Thompson's done an amazing job utilizing his pitchers. I know at one point the Phillies bullpen had pitched the least amount of innings, like somewhere in the middle of them doing bullpen games every 5th day. And, that's just unheard of. So just the way that he's managed the pitching staff is and just let the young guys play. I think even he still gives Boehm too many days off, but Bryson Stott becoming the everyday shortstop was the right move to make. That just kind of reinvigorated the whole team. And Boehm playing, most days at least is just it spark plugged the team. And Boehm's a career over 300 hitter with runners in scoring position. And I tweeted this out the other day. It seems as though through 3 games of Bryce Harper being back, that Alec Boehm has totally unseated Bryce Harper from the number 3 spot in the lineup. Each game, Alec Boehm was batting 3rd, and Bryce Harper was batting 4th. So that's kind of hard to do.
Yeah. It was kind of weird because whenever Girardi got fired, they started talking about Rob Thompson. And they said, he's basically Girardi too, a carbon copy of Girardi. And so they were like, you're not going to see much of a difference because they've been together for ever since they were with the Yankees, basically.
Yeah, I think Thompson was an assistant hitting coach for the Yankees, when Girardi was there or something like that.
Yeah. And but hey, Rob Thompson has really shown that he can manage. And so that's good. I have someone, I think it's Buck Showalter. Now that I think about it, Buck Showalter has really done really well for the Mets, and he's kept them in line. Just been able to
injuries.
Yeah. And he's just said, because, being a Mets manager, you have to get ready because you will start off really well. And then all of a sudden you kind of have just hit a bump in the road, and then all of a sudden your whole season falls apart. And that's why they always, Mets fans are always worried about, the Mets going to Mets. I think they've coined that phrase. Mm-hmm. And they haven't. They've been full throttle and the whole season. And so that's really cool. I
was stoked when Scherzer and DeGrom got hurt as a Phillies fan, but then the Mets just kept winning. And I was like, well, this is a different team.
Yeah. Yeah, that was scary whenever – I mean, they just they went down and you were like, okay, here it comes. And then it never came. And then all these guys stepped up. Cookie Carrasco even stepped up a little bit. And then who's that new guy, that pitcher? Peterson, is it?
Yeah, David Peterson.
Yeah, Peterson has been doing really well for them. And I mean,
the worst part is Carrasco was a prospect in the Phillies organization. We dealt to the Indians for Cliff Lee years ago.
Kind of worked out for you guys.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, Cliff Lee didn't win a World Series with us, but he did put on one of the most historic months we've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah. Josh, do you have anyone, or do you have any thoughts on Buck Showalter?
So, I want to argue against Buck Showalter.
Okay.
Even though I'm a Buck Showalter fan, because he is managing the Mets. And if I recall correctly, they have one of the highest payrolls out there. But it's really hard for me to argue against that with all the injuries they had all season. So he's really done a great job. Thompson over in Philadelphia obviously done a great job since Girardi left, because Logan and I typically don't agree on a lot of things. This is one thing we agreed on was when they get rid of Girardi, Phillies are just going to tank out anyways, and they've had the resurgence and they've been great. So that's something we were both wrong on, and we're not too proud to admit that we were off on something. But I mean, I think those are two really, really good prospects. I don't care if the Cardinals win the World Series or not this year. Ollie Marmol better not be in consideration. I don't care if they win the division. I don't care how hot they get in September. I don't think he's earned it. I think he's done a fairly good job as a first-year manager, but I do not believe he should even be in the considerations for Manager of the Year. I want to make that very clear. I'm not against Ollie Marmol by any means, but I just don't think he's done enough and learned quick enough to make the right calls. I don't think anybody in the Central Division really has earned it. Craig Counsell definitely hasn't done enough with what he was given and the talent he had on the team. I can't give it to the Dodgers manager, and his name escapes me at the moment. Dave Roberts, excuse me. He's got a loaded stack lineup too, so I don't care what the Dodgers do. He's got the payroll from, the endless money pit, so he doesn't deserve it either. So I think you guys have two really good candidates out there, especially in the NL and in the same division. So I could see either one of those guys getting it.
Yeah. Does Brian Snitker need to get nominated?
No.
Or is it – because, I mean, the team was pretty bad at the beginning of the season, and then it turned around. Does that give him a little bit, or –
I'd say I'd say he could get some votes, a nomination maybe, but I don't think that he has, the firepower compared to the other two resumes to compete with that.
Yeah,
I'd agree with Ryan. He's just following the same format the Braves did last year to win the World Series and the defending champs. I mean, if they won the World Series, maybe. But doesn't this award come out before the World Series is over?
It's a regular season award only.
Yeah. So I mean, I gotta say no. I don't think he's anything spectacular. He didn't blow out the water. He's not gonna have 115 wins at the end of the season, and they just got beat by a not top 5 team in the league. They just lost the series against. So
top 1.
How have we switched positions on?
I don't know. I was going to talk about this on Wednesday. You have become totally pessimistic, and I don't like it. I don't like being the optimist.
I'm a realist.
You're not a realist. They beat the Braves. Deal with it.
I mean, can we talk about how every scrub outfielder that the Braves pick up the last 2 years at the trade deadline somehow turns into gold for their team?
Yeah.
Jorge Soler, Robbie Grossman, these guys are cast-offs.
Yeah. Even who's the other guy? Rosario.
Yeah, Edwin Rosario. I mean, he hasn't done anything this year, but damn, I mean, he showed up last year when it mattered.
Yeah. Yeah, and this year it's their prospects, and we'll get into the Rookie of the Years. But, yeah, the prospects has been the real big story this year.
Well, that was actually covered on ESPN last night. They were talking about how last year it was all the free agent pickups, and this year what's bailed them out has been their prospects and their farm system. Yeah. So it's interesting that you brought that up, unless you picked that up when I did. Watching the game, I got to give ESPN some credit because I didn't think the broadcast was that bad last night. I actually thought it was fairly decent.
And Alex Anthopoulos deserves, a medal or a bronze star for the way that he manages those contracts for the Braves. I mean, Austin Riley at $21 million a year, Michael Harris at $8 million a year. I mean, the payroll for the Braves is just stupid for the next 6 years. Ozzy Albies is like $5 million a year through 2028. It's insane.
Yeah,
the Braves will be good for the next 5 years. It just is what it is.
Yeah. And they're in talks right now with Dansby Swanson. I don't know if those talks went any further, but let's. What about AL? Do we have anybody on the AL that we think?
If the Orioles make the playoffs and if it's not Brandon Hyde, I'm going to burn the MLB studios to the ground. Like if the Orioles make the playoffs, it has to be Brandon Hyde. There's no way, shape, or form it can't be.
Yeah. Brandon Hyde is a really good one. A month ago, I would have said Aaron Boone.
Yeah.
But that's kind of gone down.
Seattle's manager?
Yeah, I mean, Scott Service.
They made a nomination?
Yeah, he should be nominated. Terry Francona, maybe. Just Terry Francona has a look on him, or not look. Because I was listening to someone talk about the Guardians yesterday, and they were talking about how, they kind of had this really rough spot. And look, they're not the greatest team in that's going to make the playoffs this year. They'll probably get knocked out in the first round. But the way he's managing the team, like a lot of these guys, like they were talking about how Steve Kwan kind of went downhill because they said, he was trying to be more of a power hitter, and they said, you don't have to be a power hitter, just be a contact hitter. And then he solidified that role, and then they have some of the other guys doing specific roles, and it's worked out for them this season. And, not that there's much competition. So I think he should get nominated. Whether or not he should win, I don't know. That's maybe Dusty Baker should get a nomination, but I mean, how much of that is him? It's kind of like the same with Brian Snitker and Dave Roberts.
Yeah.
Not with some of the moves I've seen Dusty Baker make recently. Do I even think he should be nominated for Manager of the Year?
Yeah.
Logan knows what I'm talking about because we debated this the other night.
Yeah, he doesn't like that Justin Verlander got taken out during the no-hitter. I think I saw that Verlander didn't care about that.
I mean, at that point in his career, how many no-hitters has he thrown? He's thrown a couple, hasn't he?
I think 2.
Yeah, I think he's thrown 2. I mean, if you got 2 under your belt, it's not like Clayton Kershaw getting pulled at the perfect game. He's already got the no-hitter. Verlander's out there for fun at this point. His plaque in Cooperstown's made. He's just out there enjoying life at this point. So
he's trying to get the the World Series, because he only has 1, and he probably should have 2.
Yeah, he's part of that daunted, Tigers rotation that ended up being great when they all went everywhere else.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Rookie of the Year, bet on it. Let's go to Rookie of the Years.
Okay. Let me get to my notes.
Let's go to NL first. I think the favorite right now is Spencer Strider.
I think rightfully so.
Yeah. I mean, I think he definitely deserves it this year. Hold on, I'm pulling up his stats right now. He's got a 2.87 ERA, 1.46 ERA plus, 1.03 WHIP, and a 2.05 FIP. Yeah, he's just really good for a rookie. Yeah. So, I mean, he's my favorite, I think. Is he anyone else's favorite?
Yeah, he's my favorite too. But you know what? His teammate that just got the extension, Michael Harris, he's making a hell of a run at it. Michael Harris is batting .298 with 13 home runs and less than 300 at-bats. He's got 15 steals, getting on base at a 343 clip and slugging over 500. So for an OPS plus of 135. So, I mean, he just got that 9-year deal. That's $8 million a year. I would take that production at $8 million a year every time that I could get it.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
for sure.
to me, it's Strider, but I think Harris is going to make it close.
Yeah.
I think it's Strider too, but I think Harris deserves it more. And I think this goes back to me being that I'm a romantic about the sport, and I think his story is a better story. Double-A call-up, gets his chance, and he just takes full advantage. He's going to be an all-star for years to come, most likely, unless he has a really, really bad sophomore and junior year. The kid's got talent. He's got speed. He can play defense. He hits. I mean, Atlanta stole him straight out. I mean, he deserves to get paid, as Logan would like to say, so much more money. I mean, this is an absolute steal for Atlanta long term. I mean, if you look at 5 years, this kid should be making $25 million a year, is what Logan would say. And in this one, I'd probably agree with him for once. At least, somewhere between the $18 and $22 million a year. So, I mean, I prefer Harris in this one over Strider, but Strider definitely, I think he's the favorite. And I don't – if Harris has a great September, we can see it happen.
Yeah, I guess the month of September here probably matters a little bit more than the other awards we're going to talk about, because this one to me is the closest of the major awards that we're going to discuss, and it just happens to be between two teammates. So I'm sure, that there's some locker room, like, hey, man, I'm going to get that type deal, and that's the Braves culture, man. They just look like they're having fun. But, yeah, you touched on all the intangibles. He plays great defense, has a cannon for an arm, speed to cover all the ground in center field. When Ronald Acuna went down and he was moved to right field because of his knee issues, it's like, are they going to be able to replace him with somebody that can actually play center field? And they seem to have done that just fine. So,
yeah.
Another team I know that had to do the same thing this year.
Oh. Yeah, like, can we just give the entire Rookie of the Year award to the Atlanta Braves? Like, because, I mean, Vaughn Grisham comes up, and listen, he's only played 18 games, but he's come up and done really well. So, I mean,
I guess the sleeper here is O'Neal Cruz, and that's just because of how much attention he gets. But I really don't think that he did. Like, he gets more attention than he deserves, so he'll probably get more votes for this award than he deserves.
Yeah.
But
yeah, 6 foot.
Have you seen the betting odds on him, though?
What?
Either one of you? Have you guys seen the betting odds on him?
Yeah, I checked.
Plus 25,000.
Yeah, I checked that earlier.
I was like, oh my God, how's it that much? I figured it'd be a lot less. I think it's cool that the Cubs have 2 guys in the running. If you look at the top betting positions, the Braves have 2, the Cardinals have 2, the Pirates have 1, and the Reds have 1. So it's like, it's the Braves and it's the Central Division of the NL. So to me, I find that a little bit more interesting. I mean, you got 6 prospects out of the Central that are in the running there. So,
I mean, to be fair, most of the Central, I mean, outside of the Cardinals, are young rebuilding teams. You look at Cincinnati, you look at Pittsburgh, they've been terrible for some time. They do.
I mean,
yeah.
I would
they have
expect
to get Rookie of the Year, award candidates because their entire lineup is made of rookies.
That's a good point. I expected Seiya Suzuki to be a little bit higher, but he did have the injury that kept him out for part of the season. And his production kind of tailed off a little bit there. But no surprise that happens. But Christopher Morrell.
Yeah, that was who I was going to bring up.
Yep.
I mean, this is coming from a Cardinals guy. He is so much fun to watch. He's not Michael Harris good. He's not Michael Harris good. But
hard to believe with how he's been talking lately.
Oh, man, again, realist. I try to keep my emotions in check right now because you told me I need to be less biased.
I alley-ooped that one to you, Logan.
I know.
I shot slammed. But he is just so much fun to watch. He's got a good bat, good speed, plays good defense. He is going to be a future star for the Cubs down the road, and for years to come, he's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm going to enjoy watching him in the rivalry.
And just like Chris Bryant, they'll talk about him getting traded for 3 years, and then he'll just sign with somebody else in free agency when his rookie deal's up.
Yeah.
And come on, play with us.
Yeah.
I think My biggest disappointment for that award is Joey Bart, man. Like the catcher for the Giants. I had such high hopes for him. I thought he was going to be, a fantastic prospect because he could hit. And a lot of catchers, especially nowadays, it's kind of like, oh well, can you pitch frame? Can you play some good defense back there? And he just fell flat on his face. He was sent down earlier in the year with struggles. I mean, he's been a huge disappointment for me. I thought for sure he was going to be in contention for this award.
He was their favorite. Yeah, I remember hearing about him at the beginning of the year. I think he was my favorite to win it.
I've been hearing about Bart for a couple of years now, but that's just because I follow a lot of the minor league prospects. He reminds me a lot of Tommy Joseph. I don't know if you guys remember who that is, but he was a catcher prospect for the Giants that got dealt to the Phillies in the Hunter Pence deal. And he just ended up with like 7 concussions, so they moved him to first base where he also couldn't hit or play defense. So then they shipped him off to Japan.
Gosh.
Have fun in Japan.
Yeah.
Some good sushi.
And then one more I want to do, and this is just because I'm a little bit of a homer, but I didn't realize how good he was this year. Brendan Donovan.
How'd you not realize how good he was?
I mean, I knew he was good, but I didn't know he was still in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. But he's like top 5. I think.
Shoot, man,
he's so busy hating on Harrison Bader.
Yeah, right. Oh,
that's true. And the thing is, he doesn't realize he's getting Harrison Bader with the long hair and the flashy slides and everything else. He's the replacement.
Yeah, right.
But like he actually gets on base.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah, he's got a 299 batting average, 404 on base, 789 OPS, and a 130 OPS plus. He's played 95 games, so that's probably going to hurt him just because he's been a utility guy this whole year. But he's got 350 at-bats or plate appearances. So,
in all honesty, when it comes to Rookie of the Year award, you got to – the criteria to qualify for it is 130 plate appearances for the season. I mean, they understand, like, more than likely the rookie came up like in May, maybe June at some point, so it's.
Yeah, for sure.
My problem here is, and here would be my argument for Donovan actually winning the award.
Okay.
I said it's an argument. I didn't say it's a great argument. It's an argument.
Okay.
So before you give me the look.
Okay.
Donovan has succeeded in playing every defensive position the Cardinals have put him in all season long. He's got, 2 errors the entire season. Sometimes he can make throws from third base that Arenado makes. I mean, he works the count as good as any seasoned veteran at the plate. I think he draws more pitches per plate appearance than 99% of the other players in baseball. But he can play. He literally can play any defensive position. The guy carries 5 gloves. I mean, the only positions he hasn't played this year are – I don't think he hasn't pitched. He hasn't been behind the plate. I don't think he's started a game at center field, but I think he's started games at every other position on the field.
He's played in center field. He hasn't – I don't know if he's started.
Did he start in center field, though?
I don't know if he has or not.
I know he played in center field. I just don't remember him starting a game in center. But he has started in every other position in the ballpark. The guy is as versatile as any player the Cardinals have seen in my lifetime that I can think of. He is a true utility player. He can play anywhere. He's valuable everywhere, and he's one of the best hitters out there at working the count. And as a rookie, he's one of the best hitters out there. So that would be my argument to him being a finalist or a runner-up, especially if Strider has a really bad September and Harris continues to do what he's doing, or if Strider and Harris both fall off a cliff and Donovan continues to do what he's doing, he could win it. It's a long shot, but that would be my argument for him.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's supposed to be, or like he is what Daniel Descalso was supposed to be.
Oh, I love Daniel Descalso.
Fantastic defender.
Yeah, he was really good, and he was kind of underrated and scrappy. Like it seemed like he always got a hit. He just would slap it one way, slap it the other way, slap it this way. I mean, he was a very in the moment. Like the other day, I was talking to on Cardinals Chronicles, and he played baseball so smart, and it was like one of my favorite things. Like whenever he was up to bat, he saw that the first two guys walked on 8 pitches. So what is the first thing he shouldn't do? He should not swing at the first pitch. So he takes the first pitch, and then he works the counts. I mean, he was really good. I loved him. Anyways, that's enough on Daniel Discount. Brandon Donovan, was kind of surprised he was so high on that list. AL. Now, Ryan says that this is cut and dry pretty much. Julio Rodriguez is the favorite. I mean, he's done really well. He just got the bag.
That was a great signing for Seattle too, taking the Braves approach of signing your young guys before they get way too expensive.
Well, like the contract, I was reading up on some of the contract today, and it's like there's options for 16 and 18 years.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh. Like that thing is so complicated and so smart on the Mariners, and smart for him because
he gets a guaranteed 210.
210
and max is 470.
Yeah.
I mean that's good both ways. I mean, especially if he performs. I mean, he'll make nearly $500,000 off payroll alone. Don't forget what he's going to get off endorsements and everything else he's going to sign and do. I mean, he's going to make his money one way or another.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got 21 home runs, 65 RBIs, 23 stolen bases, 264 batting average, 323 on base, 790 OPS, and a 129 OPS plus. He started off really bad. He just was striking out, looking, and then he turned it around. And I think hitting 81 home runs really put him on the map in the home run derby, and that was just unreal. So yeah, does anybody else want to talk about him real quick?
No, I mean, there's not too much to say about Julio Rodriguez. A 5-tool player. If he can get the average, and stay consistent with how he's played, outside of the first month that he came up. And he's really invigorated that team. You think about the Mariners, you think of falling off in the second half, and they haven't done that this year. Could have something to do with the youth movement. And I know he hasn't played nearly as well, but Jared Kelenic, same thing. I mean, they're keeping the young guys up, and youth baseball is becoming a young person sport, and it just seems to be moving that way. But not much on J-Rod other than I think that this award is, unless he just has the worst September out of any rookie in history, I think this award's his.
Yeah. Basically, the runner-up right now is Adley Richmond. Come on. Adley has, 8 home runs, and this is out of 328 plate appearances, 25 RBIs, a 254 batting average, 363 on base, 805 OPS, and a 129 OPS plus. Yeah. So right now he has, Julio has 114 hits and Adley has 70. I mean, they're pretty close.
Richmond, I think J-Rod has played, substantially more games than Richmond has.
111 to 79. So, yeah, it's about, 30 games right there?
I mean, I think Adley Richmond, me personally, is probably the best prospect to, be in baseball in the last few years. Very rarely do you see, coming out of Oregon State, people were drooling over this guy. I think he's, like I said, arguably the best prospect in the last few years. He could hit, switch hitter, obviously, so he can hit from both sides of the plate. He gets on base. He sees pitches really well for a rookie. I mean, a 363 OBP is, nothing to bat an eye at. To me, he's just not as dynamic of a player. And granted, yes, the Orioles are on a tear at this point, and they're looking like a playoff team. I never thought I'd say that. But they're looking like a playoff team, and a lot of that has to do with Adley Richmond, the youth movement in baseball. But I think he's just not nearly as dynamic, and he plays a criminally, undervalued position in catching. Catchers aren't awarded enough, in my opinion, for anything. So it'll be J-Rod, but I like Adley. I actually like Adley's career long term as a catcher more than I feel like Adley will be a better catcher than J-Rod will be an outfielder, if that makes sense, like compared to their peers.
Yeah, I agree with you actually.
Yeah.
So I got one other kid I want to throw into the mix here. Not that I think he's going to win. I think this is clearly J-Rod and Adley Richmond is 1 and 2. And he comes from a team I have a hard time talking about. But he's a Houston Astro, Jeremy Pena at shortstop.
I knew it.
Yeah.
This kid, man, he is very quietly. He has made play after play after play. He looks like he is going to be a defensive stud, and Houston hit gold with him. This guy makes freaking plays. I'm talking web gym type stuff. So he caught my eye over the weekend. I did a little bit of fiddling around looking for him. Looks like he's going to be a good player for long term. Houston looks like they have found their replacement for all the guys they lost. And if Houston becomes Alabama and just starts reloading and stays good year after year after year, I'm going to have a major problem.
I mean, to talk on another guy near that area too. I mean, he probably gets a little bit, more recognition than he deserves because of his name. But Bobby Witt Jr., he hasn't had a fantastic year. But I mean, as a rookie, he's 2 homers away from joining J-Rod in the 2020 club. He actually has more stolen bases. He just has to show a little bit more with the bat. But I mean, that was kind of to be expected. He was considered an elite defensive prospect when he first came up. So, and he's only 21 years old. So, I mean, the clock's not exactly ticking on him.
Yeah.
No, he just turned 22. So.
Oh, well.
He will be the future for the Royals.
Yeah, and my bad. He's getting old. The clock, he's done. If he's only
Get him out. Send him to the Cardinals. Yeah.
Shortstop, I guess.
Yeah. Well, he's played third and second too.
Yeah. We'll fit him in there. Yeah. Jeremy Pena, that's a good one. They were really comfortable with giving him the starting position at shortstop, and that's why they didn't give Carlos Correa the money really, because they were like, well, we don't need you right now. We have Jeremy Pena. The thing about, and I know you said you didn't think he was going to win, but I didn't realize he's kind of tipped over. 242 batting average, 282 on base, 690 OPS, and a 96 OPS plus. It's not just under average, but it's whatever. Good for a rookie, I think. Anyways, is there any other rookies we want to talk about real quick?
George Kirby. I don't think he gets enough recognition. Starting pitcher for Toronto. Started 18 games, 97 2/3 innings with 102 strikeouts. He's 5-3 with Seattle, excuse me, not Toronto. I don't know why.
I was so confused. I was like, hold on. Yeah. I have him listed as a Mariner.
Yeah, he definitely is a Mariner. My bad. But 5-3 with a 3.32 ERA, 18 games, 97 innings, 102 strikeouts, 1.20 WHIP. I mean, he's quietly, his ERA plus 1.11. So I mean, he's quietly having one of the better years, but seems to be dominated by his teammate. Really.
Is Logan Gilbert a rookie?
Logan Gilbert? No, I think he would have qualified last year, if I'm not mistaken.
20-point game started last year. Never mind.
Yeah.
Why did I think he was a rookie this year? Anyways, yeah.
Because he was terrible last year.
Probably. Yeah. So there's Logan Gilbert, or not Logan Gilbert, the rookie of the year class. Josh, you want to go ahead and give a ad read before we move on to the next one?
Sure. So let's give a shout out to In the Clutch, another one of our great sponsors here at Variety Sports Network. So In the Clutch hooks you up on everything and anything you buy off their website. It is a sports apparel store. And let me tell you, they have something for everyone and basically every player you're looking for. The day they picked us up, I immediately went and started looking for gifts for Logan. I found a Trey Turner shirt for him, And I found a Juan Soto shirt that won't work for him anymore because they picked us up when he was in Washington. So I have not been back to look for a new Juan Soto shirt. I found me a couple Yadier Molina shirts, a Wayno shirt. My dad. Go to In the Clutch, check them out. When you go to checkout, now this is important. Listen very closely. When you go to checkout and you put in the code, it's got to be all caps and Variety Sports. They're going to give you 10% off your entire order, no restrictions. So make sure you go check out In the Clutch. Lots of cool stuff, apparel and whatnot. It's all fun stuff, man. They got fun shirts. So go check them out. That's In the Clutch. And when you go to check out, it's Variety Sports in all caps, and that's 10% off your whole order.
Good job. Oh, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So let's move on to the Cy Young.
Ryan is very stoked. He's like,
Good job. Let's see. For the AL.
For the
Justin
AL?
Verlander. Yeah. You want to go to the NL?
Easy one out the way.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's why I went.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's go ahead. AL, my
Okay.
bad.
Okay, save the best for last. Justin Verlander, obviously. It seems like every year he's in contention for it. 184 ERA in 152 innings pitched. 207 ERA plus, 272 FIP, and a .85 WHIP. Leads the league in ERA plus, and WHIP. So, yeah, pretty great this year. Coming off Tommy John surgery, too.
Ripe age of 39 years old.
Yeah, that's
He's like wine. He gets better with time.
yeah. What are you
Yeah,
doing?
you know, we touched on it at this point. I think Verlander's just kind of out there, like you said, to get a World Series, and secondly, to have fun. I mean, any award that he qualifies for, he's going to win, that being the AL Comeback Player of the Year and the AL Cy Young. There's no reason that he shouldn't win either. I mean, he could have an atrocious September by his standards and still probably blow this competition out of the water, which is really sad because Dylan Cease and Shane McClanahan have both had fantastic seasons, particularly Cease because you look at the White Sox as a whole and they've been disappointing. Giolito's supposed to be the ace up there. He hasn't really lived up to expectations. So Cease is kind of, he's essentially the AL's Sandy Alcantara, where he's just on a bad team, but he's pitching really well. Cool. Bryce Harper doubles and Rhys Hoskins scores. Nice. Anyway, Verlander, I mean, he's just fantastic in every aspect of the word fantastic. So I think that this award is a runaway for him.
Yeah. Shane McClanahan and Dylan Cease are pretty much the runner-ups. Shane McClanahan, 2.27 ERA, 175 ERA plus, 308 FIP, and a 1.12 WHIP. I wonder how many innings he's thrown. 147. So he's right there with Verlander.
Verlander's averaging 6.5 innings to start, which is roughly about an inning less than his last Cy Young year when he was averaging about 7.5 innings. I mean, age will do that to you, I guess, though.
Yeah, right. Well, let's talk about that real quick because Verlander, what the thing that's going around right now is his stats as the MVP in 2011 and his stats this year, and he's having better season this year than he did in his MVP year, which is just awesome. I don't want to go through the whole stats, but it's not like he's just barely beating it. He's beating it pretty handedly. So, yeah, that's really cool. Pitched 251 innings that year, too. Good Lord.
He's the last of a dying breed.
I
wouldn't even classify Max Scherzer in the same conversation as him, as in like guys that, and not that he does this anymore because he's 39, but you could give Verlander the ball and he would go 9 innings. That he's probably the last of the dying breed there in that sense. So, but yeah, he's just fantastic. I mean, what he's doing at this age is unspeakable. It's unseen before.
Yeah, I agree with you. Scherzer and Waino, even at their age, like they're up there too, and they're still phenomenal pitchers. But Verlander is just in a whole nother realm. And I was not high on him coming into the season, coming off the Tommy John surgery with his age. That was my biggest concern. I thought that was a major mistake, the contract they gave him, and I got to eat crow on that one too, because I just didn't have enough faith that the old man was going to be able to come back from Tommy John surgery and be what he was in the past, and I was very wrong.
Yeah, as it turns out, they underpaid him.
Yeah. Looking at it now, absolutely.
Yeah, Scherzer, who's younger than him, is making more money than him and having a worse year. That's because Scherzer's getting $40 million a year?
43, I think.
Yeah.
To be fair, compared to Verlander, everybody's having a worse year.
Yeah. So that's that's amazing. He said he was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna opt out of this year. I'm doing too well. I was like,
yeah, I mean, there's still be some balking at, giving him big time contracts because of his age. But if you look at his performance and then look at the contract Scherzer got with the Mets, despite his injury history, I mean, you could make the argument that the market's going to say Verlander gets $45 million a season.
Yeah. I mean, man.
Could you imagine that?
Yeah. He's probably going to want a 3-year contract.
Yeah, that's going to be the only thing.
He's going to want 3-4 years because he's like, oh, yeah, I want to play like Nolan Ryan. I want to play until I'm 45 years old. I'm like, good Lord.
Imagine him saying that in like his late 20s and everybody laughing at him, and then you look at him this year, you're like,
yeah.
Oh.
I mean,
are we talking about Tom Brady or are we talking about Verlander? I mean,
yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, he's something. He's something else. So the NL Cy Young, I think the favorite is Sandy Alcantara.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Tony Gonsolin. I think that's more of a conversation than I realized it would be. Tony Gonsolin, he's having a really good year this season. But hold on, because I started talking before I could even.
That's fine. I'll fill in the conversation. So
yeah.
I have the odds up actually for NL Cy Young, and Gonsolin's sitting at plus 4,200, and his teammate Julio Urias is actually in front of him.
Yeah, Julio is having a really good year too. So who do you think is the favorite on this one?
I think Alcantara is probably the favorite. He has a little bit of Felix Hernandez syndrome. If you remember, for years, Felix Hernandez would dominate the AL and have like a 12-12 record because the Mariners were just a god-awful organization that would win 60 games a season. I think he's plagued a little bit by that. And granted, he's kind of slowing up a little bit. I know his ERA was 181 at one point. It's now sitting at 213. So he's kind of backing off the gas a little bit, if you even want to call it that. But to be honest, I mean, Corbin Burns and Max Fried. I mean, I like Max Fried to potentially take this award personally. The way he's pitched, really since what's his name, the dude that tore his Achilles. Hasn't pitched in 2 years. Yeah, Mike Saroka. I mean, really, the way that, because Saroka was supposed to be the ace, he was the end all be all for the Braves rotation, and then all of a sudden he went down, and Max Fried kind of stepped in, and he's pitched fantastic for the last couple of years. And the way he's got the September experience, he's pitched in big games. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the award, but that's just me for. Really, it's going to be Alcantara because they kind of moved away from record mattering so much. But I think Max Fried could easily win this award too. 12-4 with a 2.52 ERA. Yeah,
he's having a really underrated year this year too. Sandy Alcantara, 26 game starts, started 185 innings pitched, 2.13 ERA. 190 ERA plus 287 FIP and a .98 WHIP. Tony Gonsolin having 210 ERA, 197 ERA plus, 334 FIP, and a .86 WHIP. He has 128 innings pitched though. Yeah, and then Max Fried, obviously. I'll look at him in a second. Josh, what do you think?
Ryan and I are kind of on the same page on this one. I think Sandy gets it, but Max Fried was my underdog pick to come in and take it with everything he's done this season, with the whole situation he got stepped into, having to become the number one guy, and he's handled it with extreme professionalism, and he's done the job correctly. So I mean, honestly, Ryan stole my thunder, so I'm just going to sit back and
great honesty to like, man. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
So how do we all feel about Edwin Diaz actually being in the conversation for NL Cy Young? Do you think closers should even be in the talks?
I think the closers should have their own award.
I mean, there is a reliever of the year award.
A reliever year.
Well, yeah, but no, I mean like closer of the year, like shutdown. They should be called like the shutdown man award or something, where it's just strictly closers and it goes to the best closer. I think that's one thing that baseball is missing. Unless there is an actual closers award that I don't know about, and that could be true, but
I think that's really what reliever of the year is, more of a closers award.
Typically, yeah, but I mean, I like having a reliever award, and I would like to have a closer award because they are designated as two different kinds of pitchers.
Okay.
I think. I mean, for years, the award then would have gone to Mariano Rivera in the AL and Trevor Hoffman in the NL, and nobody else would have even been thought about. Yeah. And then you look at today's day and age where a lot of teams kind of use a closer by committee based on the matchups. So, I mean, I think it'd be a little bit – I guess that would make the award, that much more special if you are a full-time closer. But
well, I mean, if Diaz is in it, I think Helsley should be in it. That's where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know about Edwin Diaz being considered for a Cy Young. I feel like if a closer
in the odds.
Yeah. He's it's just like, for me, if you're going to be a closer, because you have to have, because all your stats have to be adjusted basically.
Right.
So he's got 51 innings pitched in 51 games, and he's got a 140 ERA and a .91 WHIP. I feel like it should be under 1 if he's going to be considered.
Yeah, I feel like you need to be a little – like I know he went like 2 months without giving up an earned run or something like that, but I still feel like 1.4 ERA is just not – it's not dominant enough,
Yeah. I mean, it's really dominant for a closer, and that's exactly what you want, but it's just not the best thing I don't think that's a good enough conversation. Like Mariano Rivera, that's just how good Mariano Rivera was back then. Like he would shut you down all the time. And I feel like he's the last one who won, right?
The biggest thing about Mariano Rivera was he had one pitch. Everybody knew that he was going to throw a cutter. The whole ballpark knew it. And he still got everybody out. I mean, it's as a professional hitter, you're taught to sit on a pitch. You only had one pitch to sit on, and you still couldn't hit it.
Yeah, he was something. He was something else. Yeah, that's interesting, though. I never heard of that one. Edwin Diaz.
They need to get Aaron Nola's name off these odds ASAP, dude. I love my Phillies guys to death. I really cannot stand the fact that I'm looking at the odds and I see Aaron Nola's name ahead of guys like Zach, or ahead of Spencer Strider and Zach Gallen. I mean, Jesus, it's his next start's going to be in September. So we all know that Aaron Nola and September don't go together very well. So he's obviously going to fall apart. He's not a true number one. I'm going to go on a rant here for about 30 seconds. Aaron Nola is not a true number one. I don't care what all the Phillies fans say. I've been saying this for years. The guy is soft in September. I call him Softy September because his 4.26 career ERA in September does not scream number one to me. So he can have, the .89 whip he has on the road. That's fantastic. But I don't want to hear that he's a number one because he does not do number one things. He doesn't have that dog in him. He pitches in great humidity. He hasn't pitched a single game in October, so he's not a number one to me.
Is he?
Get his name off the Cy Young, please. Thank you.
He's considered the Phillies ace.
No, the Wheeler's kind of taken the role. But I mean, for years, people were like, Aaron Nola's a number one. He's disrespected by the league. And I'm like, you're disrespecting yourself by saying that. Please stop.
Yeah, sounds familiar. Yeah, so. But, yeah, that's Cy Young for
Is that a Jack Flaherty comment?
Oh, no. No.
Oh, that's why I took it, Wes. That's where I thought he was going with it.
Yeah, I was like, man, do the Cardinals fans think about that with Jack Flaherty too?
No. Well,
That's
I mean,
a 50-50
they do.
split, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an annoying split. No, that's not who I was talking about. I want to go back to the AL real quick. I want to talk about Framber Valdez because he's done really good. I think he has the longest streak of consecutive quality starts. I think it's 26 right now.
Yeah, I saw that the other day. I was like, damn, that's crazy.
I believe he's the one who no-hit the Yankees. Maybe I'm wrong. But 2.65 ERA, 112 WHIP, 3.18 FIP, and a 1.43 ERA plus. He's not going to win it, but I think he should be mentioned because he's having a really good year for the Astros. Okay, MVP. Which one do we want to start off with?
AL.
AL?
Yeah, I was about to say, let's start out with the AL.
Okay, the AL MVP. It's pretty much it's Aaron Judge, basically. Aaron Judge and everyone else.
If Aaron Judge hits 120 with 0 home runs in the month of September, I'll reconsider, but I agree with that statement.
I mean, he leads the AL in RBIs, home runs with 49, RBIs with 109. He's got a 293 batting average, 393 on base, 655 slugging, 1.048 OPS, and a 195 OPS plus. He leads the league in slugging, OPS, and OPS plus, by the way. Yeah, he's just he bet on himself this year, and he's kicking ass and taking names for sure. What do you guys think about Aaron Judge?
I think the Yankees are in trouble because as they've come out and stated that they want to stay under the luxury tax, well, you're going to have to let some people walk, or Aaron Judge is going to have to walk. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, he's like I said, if he bats 120 and has 0 home runs in the month of September, I'll reconsider, your opening statement. But this is the Aaron Judge Award. They should change it to the AJ MVP instead of the AL MVP because it's just his name on it. I mean, you can sit here and tell me Ohtani's very good at hitting and very good at pitching. That is fantastic, man. I mean, Judge was on Bond's pace at one point, so
yeah, they were talking about him breaking the original record of 62 home runs. I don't think he's going to get it. I was saying before the show, he's just hit that slump kind of and with the Yankees, and I don't see him getting 62. I hope he does. Actually, 61 is the record. Never mind. Well, 61, ties the record. Yeah. Who are y'all's backups, or who do you think?
Hold on.
Okay.
I agree with you. Judge should get it, but since nobody else will make an argument for Ohtani, I'll make the argument. It's very short and very simple. Dude plays 2 positions. He pitches and wins. He hits and the ball flies. He's doing something that nobody else in the MLB is doing still. I know he's gotten it before, and he's, the new wonder of baseball, but he's still doing something that nobody else is doing. No other team has a player that does what he does, and that makes him a little more valuable than any other player in baseball right now because he goes both ways. Do I think Ohtani's going to win it? No. Do I think he deserves to win it? No, not this year. Not just because Judge has been incredible. But as long as Shohei Ohtani is a winning pitcher and one of the better hitters in the league, and when I say one of the better hitters, I'm talking OPS of 150, 115 or better, or OPS plus 115 or better, and he's batting average near 300, and he's cranking 20 home runs and hitting for 75 RBIs. He's got to be in the considerations. He's got to be in the talks, and whether we like it or not, he has a good argument every year that he does that, because if he does both well, he's more valuable. And we're talking about most valuable player to their team. He is one of the most valuable players in the MLB. Can't say he's not. But Judge has been incredible this year, so Judge is going to win it. But nobody else, we couldn't find anybody making an argument for Shohei Ohtani because they know Judge is going to win it. So I'll make it just because it needs to be out there. He is one of the most valuable players in the MLB, if not the most valuable player.
And that's a great point that you make. Like, he is going to be top 2 every year, and it's always going to take somebody having a season like Judge is having, where you talk about him breaking, the 61 homer mark, or, breaking some kind of record. That's the type of season it's going to take in the AL for as long as Shohei Ohtani is there for him not to win this MVP award. I mean, you could pencil him in as the favorite every year until somebody has a season like what Judge is having this year. He'll always finish top 2 because seasons like what Judge is having don't happen twice in 1 year. So, but yeah, I agree. Ultimately, if we're talking grand scheme down the road, who am I taking in 5 years? It's going to, like, for 5 years starting as a franchise, it's going to be Ohtani because he can do both things very well. But this year, I mean, Judge is on a record-setting pace. So,
yeah.
Now, there may be a team here in the next couple of years that has another player that does that, and we'll see how that pans out. But they'll probably be in different leagues. So then we're going to be in the same – if it pans out, we're going to have the same situation in the NL that we have in the AL. And it's just going to get interesting at that point.
Yeah. My thing against Ohtani is, yes, at some point it becomes just a novelty type thing, or the gimmick, like, oh, he does what no other player does. Yes, I get that. But I think if he needs to be truly, like, right now he's got 28 home runs, 77 RBIs, 265 batting, 358 on base, 874 OPS, and a 145 OPS plus. And then pitching, he's got 267 ERA, 151 ERA plus, and a 1.06 whip. That's really good. I think for me, if he has to be, like, to truly be MVP, otherwise it's just going to get, like, he's just going to get it just because of that one thing. He has to lead the league in one of those areas. Like, if he leads all pitching, then I think that would make him a MVP, like, instantly.
Well, that makes him an MVP and a Cy Young.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
So you're saying and I understand your argument. I'm not saying it's a bad argument, but let's have this out real quick.
Okay.
So you're saying ultimately, because he's more talented and he plays 2 positions and 2 opposite positions, we're going to call them opposite positions because they're both fielding positions. He has to be dominant at pitching, or he needs to be the best hitter in the league to win MVP. Is that ultimately what you're saying?
Yes.
Well, that's kind of a double standard, and that's ridiculous.
How is that a double standard?
Because nobody else, if as long as he is a top 5 pitcher, as long as he's a top 10 pitcher, and in the top 15 batters in the AL, I don't see how you don't give him a look at Cy Young. I don't see how or at MVP. I don't know how he doesn't have an argument. I think every year he's going to have an argument as long as he's well above average in both categories, which this year he is.
I'm not saying that there shouldn't be an argument. I'm just saying I don't think he should ever win an MVP when he's not being the best.
But that's like punishing him because other people aren't as talented as him. I mean, ultimately, It's not his fault that nobody else does what he does.
I understand, but
he focuses on 3 skill sets, while most other players focus on 2 or 1. Like, most pitchers focus on 1. All pitchers now focus on 1 skill set, throwing the ball.
Yeah.
But fielding players, first base, catchers, everybody else, they have to focus on 2 skill sets, hitting. Well, 3 technically, hitting, fielding, and throwing.
Nobody pays attention to defense anymore.
Yeah, defense is.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
dumb.
he has to do everything, Logan. So I mean, I get where you're coming from, and I understand the spirit in which your argument's based.
I'm not saying.
I don't think it's as.
I understand what he's saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I
think we're both saying the same thing, but we're saying it from opposite sides. You're saying, that I want to handicap him because he does both. I'm saying that just because he does both does not mean he should be an instant MVP.
I agree with you. He has to be in the top tier of both, though.
And I wanted to have this argument a couple months ago because when it was just between him and Judge, and it was not close, but it was closer than it is now, I think. He just, I still thought that wasn't I get it, but when Judge is hitting the way that he is right now, I don't think it's really a discussion. But some of the baseball writers, and I'll say this, they kind of they're pushing Ohtani because Ohtani is this weird, cool guy, and they may want to give him 15 MVPs in a row just because he's Shohei Ohtani and they like the story.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't think he's all the – yeah.
Can I ask one more question before we move on?
Okay.
If you were going to trade for one player, would you trade for Judge or would you trade for Ohtani?
It's Ohtani for me, yeah.
See, that's different. To me, that's different than starting a franchise. If I were to just start from scratch, I'd take Ohtani easily. But if we're talking about trading for a guy, you have to essentially pay for two of both a great starting pitcher and a great hitter if you're trading for an Ohtani. We talked about this during the trade deadline episode. You got to give up 7 or 8 prospects in your organ. I don't think any organization literally has the firepower to give up what it's going to require to take Shohei Ohtani. So if we're trading for one, I'm going to take Judge just because he's going to cost less.
Yeah.
That's a good argument too.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so change. If you're starting a franchise.
Yeah. If I'm starting a franchise, Ohtani, not even close.
But yeah, the thing about Judge for me is he gets injured too. And Ohtani at the beginning of his MLB career, he got injured too, but it seems like he's kind of fought through that. So that's my thing about it. I want to go.
Are we doing sleepers?
Yeah. My sleeper is Yordan Alvarez. I think it should be you can piggyback off it because it's not really much of a contest other than that. Just because everyone is saying that Judge ran away with it, and it kind of seems like Yordan has kind of fallen off the everyone's radar, and he shouldn't be. Played 109 games. 31 home runs, 80 RBIs, which is surprising that he's only got 80 RBIs with the Astros. 294 batting average, 398 on base, which leads the league. 597 slugging, 995 OPS, and a 182 OPS plus. He's just on another level. He got the bag this year, about halfway through the year, so that's really good for him. Brian?
Yeah, Yordan Alvarez was my sleeper too because for a while there was such high hopes for him. He was being talked about, and this is a guy that doesn't actually strike out a whole lot either, which isn't talked about as much. He only has 88 strikeouts, and that is a lot in 109 games. But if you think about power hitter aspects, that's actually pretty minuscule. So this is a guy who can for a power hitter put the ball in play. He's not much of a big walker either. I think he only has 60 some odd. I think 64 walks this year. But I liked Yordan Alvarez. I've liked Yordan Alvarez for years, and then I hated the Astros. So
right.
That's unfortunate. But I like Kyle Tucker too. They got a couple of nice, outfield. I guess Alvarez is DH, but Kyle Tucker out there in Houston's pretty nice too. So
yeah. Josh, do you have anyone?
I'm surprised neither one of you have mentioned him, Jose Ramirez.
That was who I was about to mention.
Logan was really, really high on Jose Ramirez at the beginning of the year. So that's the only reason I really paid attention. So as much as Logan and I debate and we argue with each other and whatnot, I value the things he brings up. So I try to pay attention when he brings players up to my attention that I don't normally pay attention to. Jose Ramirez has been very, very good this year for a team that is very, very bad. Not very, very bad. Rephrase. Who is better than we anticipated them being, but is not a top-tier contending team. They're probably going to make the playoffs and get bounced in the first round. But Jose Ramirez is the heart of that team. He is the spirit of that team. He's the best player on the team. And I think if Ramirez wasn't there, I think there's an argument that the Guardians aren't even being talked about for a playoff spot.
Yep.
So, I mean,
I could
we're talking most valuable players. If he's not there and he's on a different roster, are the Guardians even in contention? I don't know. I don't
probably just because the team is so
bad.
Yeah, division is so bad.
And they have a good pitching staff up there too.
Yeah, their pitching is really good. Quantrill, Bieber. Jose's numbers: 26 home runs, 106 RBIs, 283 batting average, 353 on base, 548 slugging, 901 OPS, and a 155 OPS plus. He leads the league in doubles, 38. So that's really cool.
That was a strange, like in the offseason when he got the bag, that was a strange contract extension to me because you looked at the Indians who basically just told Francisco Lindor to F off and that they weren't going to pay him a dime. And then they turned around and I was like, okay, they're just going to keep blowing up the core. I mean, they're going to trade Ramirez because he's on the last year of his deal. And then they signed him to that extension that starts next year. And I was like, what? The whole thing just didn't make any sense to me. And then, I mean, he's pretty much, the main reason they're in playoff contention. So I guess that's why the Guardians GM gets paid the big bucks and I get paid to sit here and analyze what he does. But
I mean, maybe they didn't pay Lindor so they could pay Ramirez.
They probably got like a cheaper version. And to be honest, they're very comparable players. But
yeah. Jose Ramirez. In the offseason, I had wet dreams about him playing second base for the Cardinals. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, Trey Turner at short. Oh my gosh, that team would be so great.
Juan Soto in right field.
Wow, you just have this super team planned. And maybe you should be the GM, dude. You got this super team planned out.
Oh man, I'd give Trey Turner the bag. I don't care. I don't care if I overpay. I want him.
I'll tell you, Logan, speaking of Trey Turner, luxury tags, nobody could go to the games.
Speaking of Trey Turner, Bryce Harper just said Trey Turner was his favorite player to watch. So Trey Turner's a Philly next year. Sorry, guys.
Stop that.
Sorry, guys.
Can Bryson stop play second?
Yes. Yeah, that's where he actually started when Didi Gregorius was busy fucking up our whole team.
Hold on. Timeout real quick.
Oh, gosh.
And I haven't seen it, and I don't know. So I'm asking.
Oh,
has Didi Gregorius been picked up by anybody?
No.
Probably for whatever network Girardi worked for.
Yeah, right. What was that, Josh?
I thought somebody would pick him up and give him a chance.
Yeah, I thought the Cardinals would pick him up, but I was like, okay, I'm getting that. And I was like, I don't hate it. But, yeah.
No. If you're bad on the Phillies, you're going to be bad everywhere else.
Yeah,
Trust me. We're not one of those organizations.
Dang it! I just lost my train of thought right there because I was thinking of asking a question, something witty. By the way, the other day I had a bone to pick with fucking Edward Cabrera. He was pitching against the Dodgers, and Trey Turner comes up, and he takes a fastball right to Trey Turner's head. Trey Turner goes down, and I'm like, oh no, his year's over. No, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. No, he gets up, and this is actually a story of rising to the challenge because he gets up and immediately steals second base.
That's a lost art, man. You throw it a base stealer back in the day, forget about it. They were taking second base on you.
Oh my gosh, he is so fucking fast. I love him. Anyways, that's enough swooning for one night. I'll look at him again in the shower. But anyways,
got a poster right out there,
right on my ceiling.
They just painted a Cardinals uniform on him.
Yes. Oh my gosh, he would look so good in that Cardinal red. Anyways, yeah, there's the MVP, I think, right? For the NLs, or the ALs?
I'm sure you guys are very much wanting to talk about NL MVP.
Yeah. But is there anybody else on the AL that we want to talk about real quick?
No.
Okay.
No, I had nobody
Oh,
else.
I have one more. Justin Verlander. I think there should be a conversation with that one.
Yep.
Being MVP.
Okay.
Just because he's doing so well. Like I said.
And it's not even comparing his old MVP numbers like where you talked about. It's where would the Astros be without him?
Yeah, he's and just the fact that he came off Tommy John surgery and he's still pumping 98. I mean, he's doing really well.
Nature, dude.
Yeah, he's really good. So yeah, I think he should be at least a top 3 for sure. Like it's Judge, Yordan Alvarez, and Justin Verlander, in my opinion, with Jose Ramirez at 4. I wish Devers didn't get injured because he would, I think, because he missed about a month, I think, and I don't think he really has a he's really in the conversation anymore. But anyways, okay, let's talk about the NL MVP. As I choke up my lung. I guess the favorite is Paul Goldschmidt.
I see Josh over there with a little smirk. Josh, he's dying to talk about Paul Goldschmidt.
Josh, go ahead.
Oh. Yeah, I won't steal that thunder.
Paulie G. Paul Goldschmidt had a fantastic season. So the thing that Arizona fans know this and St. Louis fans know this. Paulie G usually starts the season off ice cold, like ice, horrible, junk.
Not this year.
Oh yeah, he did. He had the worst. No, he had a terrible April.
Yeah, but usually it runs into May.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
He had like a bad 2 weeks. He had a great spring training where we all thought coming out of spring training there was not going to be any slowdown. It was just going to be tear it up all the way through. We start the opening week of the season. In the first 2 weeks, he just struggles, and then out of nowhere, click, boom, he just takes off. But while he was struggling, Nolan Arenado was hot. He was hot right off the bat. And then, so Arenado gets NL Player of the Month the first month of the season. Goldschmidt gets a second, and Goldschmidt just never looked back. He's been tearing it up all season. He's a legit Triple Crown candidate. He needs a couple more home runs against your boy, or your boy just needs to slow down and not hit something, and we'll get a Triple Crown winner this year. But I have a fear. Here, and I love Paulie G. He's fantastic. He is the epitome of a professional baseball player, and he is the epitome of what a Cardinal baseball player is. He's not showy. He doesn't like doing interviews because he doesn't like to talk about himself. He likes to talk about the team. He's all about the team. He's came out and said he loves St. Louis. He wants to finish his career in St. Louis. I love that about the guy. He's fantastic. All around great dude, top to bottom. Everything about him is awesome. He is what every team should want. Every team should want that player on their team, and I'm sure they would all take him. He's absolutely slashing across the board, top of the league, top of the NL, and he's just great. Love Paul Goldschmidt. Can't talk enough about him. My fear is if he tails off here in September and Nolan Arenado keeps the pace that he has right now, do they end up splitting votes and Freddie Freeman comes in and gets MVP when he shouldn't? This is my worry. Yeah, Ryan's down there going, no, it doesn't happen. Okay, fine. That doesn't happen. But could there be a co-MVP? And could they be from the same team? This is like my dream right now. Logan dreams about Trey Turner and Juan Soto. I'm dreaming about a co-MVP between teammates in St. Louis working the corners because they're two of the best defensive players. They're two of the best offensive players in the NL right now. They are smoking it. And everybody they face, they're hitting right now. They rarely strike out. When they do strike out, they come back and they smoke something later in the game for RBIs, big hits. They get on base. They draw walks. They see the plate really, really well. Goldschmidt should be the MVP this year in the NL, in my opinion, because he's been more consistent. Arenado's had some up and downs here and there, but when Arenado gets hot, he's even better than Goldschmidt. But, and I'll close on this, Arenado has said a couple times his favorite player to watch in the MLB and the best player he's ever played with is Paul Goldschmidt. So I think Paul Goldschmidt wins it unless something radical happens in September, like Arenado goes ungodly, hits 500 average, and hits for 8 or 9, 10 home runs, and just lights it up. That's the only way I see it happening. And at that point, I don't know what happens. But yeah, Goldie should win it. Arenado should be a super honorable mention runner-up. I don't think Freddie Freeman's done enough. I'd pick Trey Turner as my underdog over Freddie Freeman, but that's just me.
Right.
So I have a quick note to make. As a Cardinals fan, you should not hope that Arenado is a co-MVP or an MVP at all, because he will absolutely walk out of his contract and go make more money than what he's making now if he wins the MVP.
That's a good point.
So you should absolutely hope he takes second place.
That's a real good point.
Which
I think he gets. I think he gets an incentive for winning MVP though. I think it's $1 million or something. Hold on,
I have his contract details up. Yeah, it's $100,000 if he wins MVP.
Oh, wow.
But,
that's not worth it.
Yeah. That being said, I love that Goldschmidt's in this spot. I remember our very second episode on BSing Sports. This was about a year and a half ago. I went on a rant that Paul Goldschmidt is the most underrated first baseman of a generation. Yeah, you know, him and Freddie Freeman were widely disrespected and not getting enough credit. Now, obviously, Freddie won a World Series with the Braves and, you know, won an MVP in the shortened year. People kind of, you know, gave him the respect that he deserved finally. But Paul Goldschmidt's right there with him. I love Paul Goldschmidt in Arizona. He's my favorite first baseman ever since Albert Pujols kind of came, you know, crashing back to, you know, not even earth, crashing back to hell when he went to LA. So, but yeah, Paul Goldschmidt's my favorite first baseman that I've arguably ever watched. Fantastic defender, always was drawing the ball, always in the top 10 in pitches seen. He's a consummate professional. He does everything well. He did everything for Arizona, even though they were a dumpster fire organization. He's doing everything that he can in St. Louis. And last year I was concerned because he was off to another slow start. I was like, man, I really hope that Goldschmidt's career is not like coming to an end like this. And then he caught fire in June last year. And really outside of April this year, like you guys touched on, he hasn't slowed down at all. If he could give me like 3 or 4 more years of these, I mean, 3 is probably a little bit more realistic. If he could give you 3 more years of what he's doing this year, I would turn around and say that Goldschmidt's probably a Hall of Famer. But he's been one of my favorite players to watch forever. I'm so happy for Paul Goldschmidt that you know, he's having this kind of season and that he's going to hopefully get the recognition that he deserves, because he's been criminally underrated from his time in Arizona, his time in St. Louis. And one thing that's not talked about enough, because he's a first baseman, he's an Iron Man. Every season since 2014, when he played 109 games and missed a bunch of the second half, he's played 155, 156, 158. You know, he's always out there. He's readily available, always ready to go. It's Paul Goldschmidt's award. I'm hoping that he absolutely passes Kyle Schwarber and in home runs, you know, because the Phillies can win games without Kyle Schwarber hitting home runs, so I'm fine by that. Yeah, I would love to see Paul Goldschmidt win the Triple Crown. He's been one of my favorite players for years, and I would love for him to continue this track for like 3 or 4 more years and make a solid Hall of Fame case.
Yeah, because he's kind of, like you said, he's kind of flown under the radar. He's been one of the most underrated first basemen.
6 straight All-Star appearances in Arizona.
Yeah, like and 2013 he came up just short. I think, second place in the MVP voting. Had a terrible September, which kind of gave Andrew McCutchen the lead in there, and then he got top 3 in 17. And I mean, he's silently been there this entire time.
He was second. He was second in the NL MVP voting in 2015 too.
Yeah, second in there too. I mean, he's he's just always been in that conversation. And luckily, I mean, I think Arenado and the Cardinals and company have kind of like thrown him out there and said, hey, this guy is really great. So, yeah, that's really good. He leads the
It's also
league.
really lucky Bryce Harper got hurt, just saying.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, man, I wonder how close it would be if Harper was around. But he leads the league in every statistic. Batting average 338, 421 on base, 629 slugging, 1.051 OPS, and a 199 OPS plus. He has a 199 OPS plus. It was at 200 for a while, and he's kind of not been he hasn't been hitting home runs lately in like a week. He's probably player of the week, actually, even though I just said that. But, I mean, man, when you have a 200 OPS plus, that's pretty fucking good. And so I don't know what you have to call this if he does surpass Schwarber for home runs. Like, you can't call it a triple crown anymore because he's leading the league. He would be leading the league in home runs. He would be leading the league in base batting average, on base, slugging, OPS, and OPS plus. I mean, good Lord.
They do have an award for that. It's called MVP.
Yeah, it's called fucking God mode. Yeah, so, yeah, that's pretty great. I don't know who has the lead in doubles. He has 34 doubles this year, but yeah, good job, Paul.
I think it's Austin Riley, actually.
That's probably it.
Austin Riley, man. His season, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he kind of slowed down, too, because a couple months ago he was the second favorite to win MVP. I want to touch on Nolan Arenado real quick. It would be so hilarious if he doesn't win MVP in Colorado, where the stats are inflated, and then he comes to St. Louis and wins an MVP. That would be something I would really like to enjoy. But not having a Triple Crown winner since 1937, I think it's about time to break that. Last one was a Cardinal, too.
Yeah, I was about to say, last one was a Cardinal.
Joe Ducky Medwick.
Man, the names in the early time of baseball just kill me.
Yeah, it's so good. I was hearing some of the names that are like really bad in today's standards. I'm like, okay, that's not good.
Pee-wee Reese.
Yeah, right. Who's your sleeper, Ryan?
It was Austin Riley until he fell off. Just looking at the MVP odds, you touched on Freddie Freeman. Right after him is Trey Turner, and then right after him is Mookie Betts. And my take on it is, if you have three guys in the top five from the same team, that team is way too stacked to have an MVP, personally, because it sounds like if Freddie Freeman went down, the Dodgers would be just fine. If Mookie Betts went down, the Dodgers would be just fine. If Trey Turner went down, the Dodgers would be just fine. They're a loaded squad. I mean, nobody should even be like relatively unless they have a triple crown season, and they're just head and shoulders above every other individual. Like, it's kind of the same thing with the Ohtani argument, that Logan was making earlier. Like, that team is so good all around. Like, they have all stars, they have MVPs everywhere. If without Freddie Freeman, is he really the most valuable player on the Dodgers? I mean, maybe, but the Dodgers have four other MVPs on their team. So, like, what difference does it make?
Well, not only that, but like, you think about like a team that doesn't have stacked players like this, and like, I mean, I'm just going to use them as whatever. Juan Soto as an example. Sorry, he was on a very bad Nationals team. He's not getting good at bats.
No,
he's not, and when you're playing the Dodgers, you have Trey Turner, Mookie Betts, like you said, Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, even though he hasn't had the greatest season this year. Gavin Lux, even.
Yeah, I mean, Gavin
Wilson Muth.
Yeah,
so you're getting, like, you have to pitch to these guys.
Chris
Otherwise,
Taylor.
yeah, like up and down, that lineup is stacked. So
Turner.
You have to pitch to these guys. So this is basically, it's easier for guys from the Dodgers than it is for a guy like on the Nationals or on a regular team. So I wonder if that kind of falls into something like that.
Yeah, they're protected. I mean, you can't work around Trey Turner because Mookie Betts is behind him. You can't work around Mookie Betts because Trey Freeman's behind him. I mean,
it's amazing, honestly.
I have a solution for the award problem.
Oh no. Oh, I'm just waiting, bracing myself.
Okay, so I don't have a problem with the most valuable player award. I don't. I think it's important to have, and I think it's a good award. But I think the most valuable player a lot of times gets mixed up with best overall player, because the best overall player is not always the MVP. The MVP is not always the best overall player. The most valuable player is who is most valuable. So, like I would say for the AL this year, Judge would be the best player in the AL, while Shohei Ohtani would then be MVP. This would solve these kind of arguments and these problems. And I have this problem with the NFL, and I've had this discussion with friends, obviously not online because I don't do NFL online, but they need to be two separate awards. And I think this would help out across the board, even like in the NBA and the NHL, because these are team games, and your most valuable player, and I'm going to run with my team. So the St. Louis Blues. Sorry, Logan. The St. Louis Blues, the most valuable player on that team right now is probably the captain, and that's Ryan O'Reilly. But Ryan O'Reilly is not the best player on the team overall. And that's just talking from a one-team standpoint. So I think they should have a second award where it's who's the most valuable player and best player award. I think that takes away a lot of the confusion and the misrepresentation, and I think it spreads the love for the guys who serve different purposes around the league. That's where I'm at on that. Logan?
Yep.
Do you like that idea, or do you like that idea, or could you pay attention?
Yeah, I was listening. I mean, I think it kind of does fall into the same category because, I know you said Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, but I mean, I think that the most valuable player sometimes is the best player.
And then fine, they can win both. They can win both awards at that point. But more times than not, the most valuable player is not the best player.
I mean, they do have an award for that. They have the Hank Aaron Award for like the best hitter, but I mean, ultimately, to be fair, the MLB I think has too many awards, and they really only advertise, the the four that we talked about on the show. I mean, they have the Hank Aaron Award, they have the Reliever of the Year Award. I mean, the casuals don't know that though, and ultimately baseball has probably the biggest casual fan following out of any of the four major sports. So.
I mean, you got all the gold gloves, platinum gloves, silver sluggers. I mean,
the introduction of the platinum glove killed me. I was like, man, we're just handing out participation trophies at this point. Like, I mean, I know having Nolan Arenado on your team, you probably love the platinum glove because it's another opportunity to broadcast your guy. But at the same time, what are we doing here? Like, why do we have so many awards? What's the point?
The platinum glove is weird to me. Yeah, I guess it's kind of cool and not really that much effort, but it's whatever.
Like, how are we going to argue who's better, Matt Chapman or Nolan Arenado? Now there's no argument because they give out the platinum glove.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Anyways.
But can I follow up on Josh's point real quick? So I'm going to read out I guess this is like 15 people just eyeballing it. So the odds to win MVP, I will name out their teams. Cardinal, Dodger, Met, Brave, Padre, Brave, Philly, Brave, Marlin.
Who's the second Met? Is it?
There's Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso are both. There's a common theme of just like these fantastic teams with multiple good players on them are like they somehow have all the naming in the award, and it hits home to Josh's point. Like they have so many good players that there really isn't a most valuable player to that team. Now you could, and ultimately Sandy Alcantara could probably win this award and nobody would bat an eye because he is the most valuable player to the Marlins. Nobody else knows anybody else's name on the Marlins. So or Kyle Schwarber, I mean, who picked it up massively after Bryce Harper got injured. But I mean, there were so many other contributions from the Phillies at that time. I wouldn't even consider him the most valuable player on the team. It's a broken award, in all honesty. It really is just given to the best player on the best teams, and they need to reanalyze how they vote it. It's a shame, really.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, do we have any other backups that we want to talk about? Let me talk about Trey Turner a little bit because obviously I like him.
Okay, and why you talk about Trey Turner? You have to define why he's more valuable than Freddie Freeman.
I'm not. Oh, okay.
No. You have to. Freddie Freeman's ahead of him. You have to define how Trey Turner is more valuable than Mookie Betts.
Yeah. How the Dodgers would not be where they're at without why Mookie Betts can't cover for Trey Turner.
Let's see. Wow, he leads the league in at bats. That's interesting. 5-12, by the way. So he has. Let's see.
So he has the most opportunity to, do what he can do compared to everybody else.
18 home runs, 86 RBIs, which is surprising. He's on the Dodgers. I guess the 9 guy isn't really.
It's almost like they have like a lot of runners on base all the time.
Yeah, it seems like that he should have more than 86 right there.
So yeah, the 9 guy at his 340 OBP is just not getting on base enough.
Yeah. 21 stolen bases. 36 walks, 311 batting average, 355 on base, 488 slugging, 844 OPS, and a 131 OPS plus. Not even. He has a 4.5 WAR, which I don't like to use all the time. But I mean, he's just the thing that I love most about Trey Turner, and I say it all the time, is he's a multi-talented player. We talk about Shohei Ohtani. He runs, he fields really great. He's a great hitter. He hits for contact. He hits for power. He hits. He just does everything. And for most of the time, he flies under the radar. He hits. He hasn't had an under 300 season since 2019 with a 298 batting average. I mean, he's just one of those guys that you can always rely on, and he'll get on base. He'll however he needs to, and once he gets on base, he's already at third base. He'll score from first. I wish I could pull up that stat, but that's going to be like 20 minutes of looking at that up of how many times he scores from first. And when he actually he has 82 runs this year.
I'm actually surprised. I thought it would be a little bit higher.
Yeah. I guess no. Anyways, but yeah, I think you would talk about value. He has so much more value because, Freddie Freeman, Paul Goldschmidt is actually a pretty good base runner. But, Nolan Arenado, those guys are super slow. And once they get on base, you can get – there's a good chance that they can get into a double play and they get stopped or whatever. Trey Turner, he kind of eliminates the double play from a lot because he'll steal second right after, or he'll get a good jump and he'll be able to break up the double play. So yeah, that's my thing with him.
He brings an old school skill set. Unfortunately, in the new school days, it's not utilized enough. Like 21 stolen bases for a guy that runs as well as him is, the guys in the 30s and the 40s just rolled over at their graves on that stat. But that's a dude that and same goes for Mike Trout. Maybe not anymore, especially with the chronic back issue. But like when he came up, he stole 49 bases as a rookie, and then didn't hit over 15. Like after that, it's like why are we not like as a manager, why are we not utilizing the assets that these guys have, particularly on bad teams? Like if your team sucks and you're terrible at scoring runs, who cares if you get caught stealing, trying to get in scoring position? What are the odds of that anyway? These great base stealers are stealing at a 90% rate anyway. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Josh, do you have anything to say about Trey Turner?
Hold on. Oh, no. Trey Turner's a great player. I don't think he wins MVP. I can't.
No.
Not this year. He's a real good player. I'd love to have him. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to have Trey Turner on my team. I think every team in the MLB would love to have Trey Turner on their team. He's a fantastic player.
Plays a lot of positions too.
Plays
a lot of positions too. He's played center field and second base in his career too.
Yeah, I mean he's a hell of a player. He's versatile. I mean, Logan's right about that. I mean, the dude plays ball. I mean, he's a true ball player. Now going back to something, and this doesn't sound slow to me, but feet per second, Arenado's 25.5 feet per second.
That's slow.
That's one of the slowest.
30 feet per second is considered like great speed. So, I mean, it sounds like 5 feet per second, but like if you bring up every other player in the MLB, I'm sure there's probably 102 of them that fit between 25 feet per second and 30 feet per second.
Pretty sure whenever I looked at that sprint speed thing, like even Nolan Arenado talks about how slow he is. He's like, whenever I get it.
I was that fast though.
I mean, I think even Yachty is like 22.
Yachty's like 20. No, I think Yachty's 22 and Alvarez 21.
Yeah. So he's not that much faster than
all right,
Yachty.
Yeah, he's closer to Yachty and Pujols than he is the elite number. So
yeah.
So what's the average? Like 27.5, 28?
28, I believe.
Yeah, probably
So
somewhere.
30's like good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30. I think there's only two players in the 30s, and that's Trey Turner and Bobby Witt, I believe.
All right, well, let me give you this then. Arenado's home run trot speed is 13th fastest in MLB, and it's 21.11.
Who's the fastest?
I don't know. I looked his up.
Fastest has to be Tyler O'Neill.
Yeah, Tyler O'Neill. He runs. He's got to be first.
Like, and that's not even biased. He literally runs around the.
He doesn't trot. He
runs. Anyways,
I remember a couple of years ago, the Mets hit Rhys Hoskins, I think, twice in a series. So the next time they played, or one pitcher hit Rhys Hoskins twice in a series. So the next time they played the Mets, Rhys hit a home run off of him, and he took 34 seconds to get around the bases on purpose.
Oh, gosh.
He just basically went heel to toe around the bases and just kind of did one of these jobs.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Logan knows I don't like showboating, but if you hit me twice in one series and I can jack one off you, you're gonna get what you get.
Okay then. Yeah. So yeah, that's the. Is there any other MVPs that we should be talking about?
No.
Yeah. By the way, I don't think Trey Turner should win the award. I want to say that he should be in the conversation. His middle name is Vance, by the way.
God, dude. He doesn't look like a Vance. I'm going to start calling him that. I'm going to be like Vance Turner to the Phillies, and people are going to be like, who?
It's Trey Turner brother.
He only has 2 triples this season.
Well, I'm sure the base coach is probably stopping him at second, knowing Mookie Betts is probably just going to drive him in anyway. I mean,
no point in pulling a hammy.
Yeah.
He doesn't pull hammies.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of good base runners, though, you touched on Paul Goldschmidt. He's only one of 2 third basemen ever first baseman ever with a 30-30 season.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. The first was Jeff Bagwell.
Huh. I watched a video on how they were talking about how smart he was, and I don't mean to turn this into a Cardinals thing, but he's so smart. I didn't realize how smart he was. They were talking about how during batting practice he hits with a heavier bat, so that way whenever during the game it's lighter and it feels easier. And then he runs around the bases a very certain amount of way, or a certain way, and it's because he's making every microsecond count, basically every step count. And so it was really interesting to watch that video. I wish I'll probably take notes on it and
you're gonna go out and run the bases. Going to give us a solid 120
Listen,
feet.
I was a pretty great base runner back in the day, back before I hurt my fucking leg. Anyways,
Hey, make sure you put down your feet per second so we can compare you to Arenado, okay?
right now it's probably about 10.
Oh, hold on. I could actually beat you in a foot race? Oh, shoot.
Probably right now.
Live on Variety Sports Network, a foot
Yeah.
race between Josh Edwards and Logan Stone.
That would be awesome.
I don't know if my leg could ever handle that again. I'll try. I can try that. We can
Just
try
give us a
doing that.
solid 90, man. Just give us the old Ichiro. You can get the head start out of the batter's box halfway through the swing.
Gosh. Oh, man. Anyways. Is there any other awards that we want to just touch on real quick or anything that we want to discuss real quick before we go?
Yeah, I mean, who do you think is going to win the World Series?
I'm glad you mentioned this because I had this. It's I think it's Cardinals and Astros, and I think it's Cardinals. I'm not being biased.
A month ago, you would have gotten laughed at, but the way they're playing, I mean, it's all about who gets hot at the right time. So,
and I'll talk. I'm going to talk about this on Cardinals Chronicles on Wednesday, but I've been saying this the whole year. They played the best Red Sox team when they were really good this season, and they lost the series, but every game, like, you can blame the bullpen on this, and then they got swept by the fucking Rays, and that's inexcusable. Then they lost the series to the Dodgers in the same way that they lost to the Red Sox, and I said if they get a pitching, they'll get close. Shut up, Josh.
You're saying that you said the things that I said.
I said the same thing. You go back. You see, you always think I was pessimistic, and I was not. But and so they got the things, and now
Who
their
picked them
team
to win
is
the
actually
World
really
Series at
good.
the beginning of the season?
That was you.
Okay.
And so I said if they'd be a really good contender if they but then obviously after the trade deadline, I said the Cardinals are going to win the World Series. I was a little bit drunk, but I still stick with it. But yeah, I think the Astros are going to make it.
Jordan Montgomery's looking like he ain't going to lose a game over there.
Yeah.
His last start wasn't as beautiful as the others, but we'll give him that one.
That's because Yachty was behind the plate. Anyways, Josh, do you have anything else to say on that one?
No, we're going to get off before I tear you open again.
You're not. Do you want to, Ryan, talk about BSing sports real quick?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Ryan BSing Sports. It's kind of like the name that's, I guess, it's down here, except you put the @ in front of the Ryan. We have a website, www.bsingsports.com. We're on Facebook, BSing Sports, Twitch, YouTube, Spotify. The whole thing's just BSing Sports. We made it pretty simple across the board. So if you want to reach out, listen to some of our stuff, we would greatly appreciate, all the support. Logan, Josh, thanks for having me on. I love talking baseball. Didn't feel like that we were here for 2 hours, but, time flies by when you're having fun. Thanks for having me on, guys. And, yeah, come check us out over at BSing Sports. We really love it.
Yeah. Josh,
we're doing a show on Thursday for baseball. It's just strictly baseball.
Nice.
Yeah.
Josh, do you have any wise words of wisdom you want to say?
Before I get to my wise words of the week, Ryan, you're always welcome to our show. You bring great conversation, great points. You make us think outside of what we normally think about. So you're always welcome. Anytime you got something you want to talk about that's baseball related, you just message us and let us know. We'll have you on board.
That's great because I have a show planned out that I'm going to need some opinions for. We're going to talk about robot umpires and other criminally embarrassing things that have happened to the sport of baseball.
Oh, gosh.
I'm in on that one, buddy. I've got points and arguments.
Well, and I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I think they're doing a compromise in the minor leagues that'll help with that, with the strike zone challenges. So that's going to be interesting. We'll probably discuss that on Monday.
To touch on that real quick, I hate how they're testing everything in the minor leagues because then these guys come up to the major leagues and it's an entirely different game. They're not getting ready for what they're playing for. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Well,
they have robot umps in the minors, but not in the majors. So guess what? You're getting struck out on that pitch 6 inches off plate. Too bad. Go home.
I didn't like that either for a second. And then I heard someone say what they're teaching them basically is how to speed up the game. So whenever they come up, they'll pitch pretty fast. Like they're trying to quick pitch basically. By the way, the other day, Rich Hill. Oh my gosh, did you watch that game? Rich Hill versus the Braves.
Yeah,
Or
where
not
he
the
went
Braves,
shutout, I
the
think.
Rays. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 6 innings, no runs. He was pitching fast. He was quick pitching those guys. It was Mark Burley like. Anyways, so yeah, that was really cool to watch. But yeah, that's why I think that it's kind of cool to see the minor leaguers come up and not spend 20 minutes with a batter. Anyways, but yeah, that does it for this show. Special shout out to sportstalkatlanta.com. Go fuck yourself. They're the ones who tweeted out saying any team who, anytime the Cardinals win a game against a team, the team should be embarrassed. And I was like, fuck you. So I told them to eat shit after the Cardinals beat them. So that was fun. We'll see you on Wednesday with Cardinals Chronicles. Josh, hit that sick beat.